Good morning or afternoon, and welcome to Exploring Hyperspace Lanes. I am Adam. It is Friday. I was going to do this yesterday. I had some stuff come up and I couldn't record. So here we are with Andor, episodes 4, 5, and 6. We're halfway through the season now. Because like I said last week, this is meant to be 5 seasons. Then the interminable march forward of time got in the way. It turns out that it takes 2 years each season to make these shows, with more time added if, we have to deal with another strike and all of that. Because here we are now, almost 3 years removed from season 1 of Andor. And we're just now getting season 2. And look, there was a strike in the middle of it. We did have the Screen Actors Guild strike. And they delayed it to this year, and here we are. And I think these 3 episodes are a really great game of cat and mouse. I will say, though, the way they tell the story with Cyril and Deidre and what their plan is, it really does a lot to put things in a weird place for me. Like, the issue with this show is, like, we're watching this, the Gorman Front try to coalesce and become a rebel movement as the Empire is, as we know, trying to mine the planet for materials to make the Death Star lens, and take further control of the planet. I believe this giant armory on the planet. Oh, good. I'm stuck behind a guy on a scooter. Fantastic. Love when this happens. So that's what's going on here. They are, they're dealing with this, this whole thing. Cyril is feeding information to the rebel cell that's brewing on Gorman, and just letting it, ferment. That all makes sense to me, and I get that. The issue is, what does this have, why do we have to see every step of this? Because it's like, in Mission Impossible 2, was it? I think it was 2, the one with the Chimera, as the MacGuffin. In Mission Impossible 2, there's a similar sequence where it's like, we're talking about how, they're gonna do this. Like, we here's what we're gonna do, here's our plan. And then he cuts to the other guy, and he's like, okay, so we know how Ethan Hunt operates. Here's what he's gonna do. And here's how we're going to go against it. Yeah, it was on with, with Thandie Newton. So, we know what he's gonna do. Here's how we're gonna counteract that. And it's a really cool thing. When you stretch it out over 3 episodes, though, that's functionally what this episode is. This idea of okay, so we're playing both sides, we're playing the Gormans, so that way they institute this attack, then we can use it as an excuse to crack down. It's okay, it's all fine. Like, that all tracks. I get all of that. But it's great that it adds this sense of futility to when we get to the 3rd episode, and we get to, I forget their names. I know one of them is Belinda Chandra from Doctor Who, the new companion. Them going to help the Gormans, it's like, this is all for nothing, because this is just going to make things worse. And outside of the dramatic irony of, we know Death Star gets built anyway, because, we know that's where Cassian dies. Inevitably, this ends on Scarif. We won't see it end on Scarif here. We will see it end, somewhere else, probably with him going on the mission to rescue Jin, that is probably the most likely place that this show ends off, is him setting off on a mission to rescue Jin. Or, like, it ends off on him, like, opening that container, and we don't see inside. It's just his version of the events, and then it goes from there. Like, it's an interesting situation. And the thing is, too, it's like, what these 3 episodes did do well, though, with that kind of dramatic irony, is that I don't think the Gorman stuff worked as well. I think the Gorman stuff from a analysis of fascism works, but in terms of narrative, it's a little bit like, okay, well, obviously this is, like, the plan is this. From a dramatic irony standpoint, they do play around with something we know. Because we do know that Luthen and his assistant are not in the, are not in the, in Rogue One, and we know they're not in, in A New Hope. So, sorry, they could theoretically die at any point. And the other thing we know is, at some point between now and Rogue One, Mon Mothma is openly with the rebellion. So there's a great scene in this where they're having this big gala for the start of the legislative session, I guess. Like, cool. I mean, we're not quite there yet in reality, but, like, you couldn't pay me to watch that. Either way, the point is, like, they are going to, you have this big thing, and Luthen and his assistant find out that there's a forgery in his art gallery, and they, in the last batch of episodes, had put an item in there that was bugged, so that way, and it's bugged, it's like, it's going to link directly back to them. So that creates a thing with, like, we need to go there, and we need to get this thing out, otherwise we're going to get caught, and that's going to be a huge problem for the rebellion. So one of the things that happens is, as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, this is great, because this is going to be where this starts to hit the fan here. And we start to escalate towards the Battle of Scarif. Because we've had small skirmishes, like we had the battle on Ferrix. We know that, what's his name? Saw Gerrera has been very militant and going around and taking whatever he can and doing whatever damage he can anywhere that he can. And I love Forrest Whitaker in this show. He is so unhinged. Like, and not unhinged in the way he was in Rogue One. Where it's like, in Rogue One, he's got a bunch of really funny line reads, but I don't think they're meant to be funny. Here he's just like, he's just kind of, doing his thing, and I really like the way he's being played here. So the whole thing with all that is, eventually we gotta get to the point where you have a rebellion with a military, because the Battle of Scarif is reasonably large when they get there. So how do we deal with that? Now, I thought this was going to be that moment, because it's like Luthen was going to, like, if they didn't get that bug out, there's your out. They don't get the bug out, Mon Mothma has to flee, she gets off-world, Luthen and his assistant, she's got like an Earth name, but it's spelled different. It's like, who is that person in Skeleton Crew with something similar? It's like, they have a very normal Earth human name, but it's spelled weird, like, why... Keys is her name or something like that. It's something like that, but it's like she has this, she has to go get the bug out. So she's talking to, her insider at the Empire and trying to figure out, so it's like, oh, this is going to be the moment they all get caught, but they don't. And I think that, like, because we know that they do have to leave Coruscant at some point, we can play with that expectation, and they do a great job of it in that scene. And I love Ben Mendelsohn's portrayal of Krennic. And I think that's one of the things that, on top of the fact that this show is, you know, doing a great job of exploring, you know, fascism and all of that, the other thing the show does really well this season is cast the shadow of the Death Star. Because, like I said, invariably this ends at the Death Star. This ends on Scarif, with Cassian and Jyn being glassed from orbit, Leia fucking off on her ship with the Death Star plans, and going right into Rogue One. That's where Cassian Andor's story ends. And we saw a little bit of that last season, where they're building shit for the, they're building shit in the prison, and it's being used for the Death Star. Like, yeah, that's cool. And I think the way they're doing that is pretty cool. But here it's like Krennic is all over this. And not all the time, just enough. Where he's like, he's there. And to have him be there as much as he is, they do a great job with that. So, and anytime we can see Ben Mendelsohn's always great. I like Ben Mendelsohn. He's a great actor. It's a shame they killed him off in Secret Invasion. But yeah, there's a lot of, There's a lot of interesting changes that they kind of do here. And then, and also I love, you know, Cassian in character. I don't even get into the big stuff. Like, Cassian in character is going to be, you know, big. Like, what the fuck am I saying? I'm sorry. Like, him playing the Silk Merchant and trying to get to see what the Gorman Front... I'm very tired today. Him trying to see what the Gorman Front is up to appraise whether or not they can, they can... you know, it's worth helping them, is great. And he says, and the thing is, too, in the end, Cassian is right. In the end, Cassian says, no, they're not ready for this. This is going to end badly. They think they're ready, but they're not. We cannot put resources here. This is not going to work. Luthen, on the other hand, is like, yeah, but what if you're wrong and shut the fuck up? And then sends them off to do whatever it is that they were going to do anyway. I really like the way they do that, and it puts you in this thing where it's like, oh, had he just listened to Cassian, you know, Belinda wouldn't have been killed, whatever her name is in the show. After having that great reunion with the other one from Narcana. Was it Narcana? I think it was the vault they had to break into in season 1. Like, it's all great, and I think that, like, Bix self-medicating. I think that the thing that's got to happen is that it's clear right now that Cassian and Bix are. I mean, they're clearly in a relationship. I think they're married. I don't know if they're actually married or if they're just like common law married, but either way, you know, they're in this committed relationship with the two of them. And I think what's going to happen is she's going to die in the last few episodes, right before he goes off to rescue Jyn. And it's like, it's going to add a little bit, like, one of the things we talk about with the end of Rogue One is how Rogue One does such a great job of reframing what we know from A New Hope. Because it's like, when A New Hope starts, in the original cut, there's not a ton of... I mean, there's some urgency, but there's not a ton of urgency. Rogue One adds a sense of urgency to it, because it's like, They steal the Death Star plans from Scarif. They leave. They immediately go to Tatooine to get Obi-Wan. It's like, this is a fucking problem. Like, I think what's got to happen is, in this next episode, they need to find out about the Death Star. That's where this next episode is going to be where the cracks start to form in the Empire. And I think, to an extent, there's a non-zero chance that Cyril is involved. Because I think there's a solid chance that Cyril, I don't know if he gets redeemed. I don't think that's the right word. I don't think you do redeem Cyril. I think that it's just like, the point of Cyril's character is that there's in these Imperial bureaucracies, you can sit here, you can treat people right, you can have them, you can give them a good life, but there's going to be a line that's going to be crossed and people are going to start to turn. And that's what Cyril's character is going to end up being, I think. We're going to reach the, next episode, because that's the thing, is that it's like, they're talking about, we have that scene with Deidre, and I forgot the other guy's name, and he goes, you can't tell Cyril about any of what's actually going on. It's because I think about that every day. In the next episode, Cyril is going to find out. In the next batch of 3, Cyril is going to find out. And I think Cyril is going to go to Cassian and be like, we need to deal with this shit right now. Like, that's what's going to end up being the big thing, is that Cyril is going to be the one who's going to find out about the Death Star and tell the rebellion. Because I feel like, for this character, that's going to be the bridge too far for him. And I think it's going to have something to do with the sense of betrayal from Deidre. The fact that Deidre knew the whole time and didn't tell him. Or not the whole time, but knew for several years and didn't tell him. Like, it's going to be one of those two things. And it's going to be a very human reason where it's like, I'm okay with these other atrocities that you're committing. This is the line in the sand that you've crossed, that you have gone too far. And I think that's an interesting thing, considering where we are right now. What are you willing to put up with? And that is, and that's going to be the question that we're going to be seeing. I think, because that's the thing, is that it's like, I don't think there are any other characters in this that I would be like, oh, clearly this character is going to be involved in getting the Death Star, find out the Death Star exists. The rebellion has to find out somehow, and I don't think that Imperial mole is enough. Like the guy they have on the inside of the Empire, I don't think he's necessarily enough to make that feasible. Like, we need someone bigger than him, I think. And I think that, Cyril being the person, it would, like, on top of giving us this, like, character we can latch onto and be like, oh, okay, this is the, the average devout, make the Empire great again guy who's going to be doing whatever the Emperor wants. What if that line is too far? And that's going to be it. And I think that, like, part of it is seeing what's going on in, I think there's a chance that him seeing what happened on Gorman is starting that shift. Where it's like, we have him up top watching and watching this raid, and then it's like, there was supposed to be no deaths. Like, that was the big thing here, is that no one was supposed to die, no one was supposed to get hurt. They were just gonna stop the truck, steal the stuff, and move on. And that would have been it. And it would have been done. The issue is, like, not only did someone die, but it's, I'm gonna call her Belinda again, and then we get that moment with the other woman, cradling her body. Because a small thing happened, and it's like, it didn't need to happen that way. And I feel like that's something that could start to shift his thought process, but at the same time, it's something that could, not. And I think there's also a possibility that it's just, I think definitively he's involved in the rebellion finding out about the Death Star, which has to happen in the next 3 episodes. Because I think that if you condense that into the 3 hours before Rogue One, that feels like quite a bit to put in there. But we'll wrap up there for today. If you want to check out our review of Thunderbolt, you can go to Beware of Spoilers. I put up a review yesterday. I enjoyed it. What else have we got on the itinerary? If you want to support the show, go to ko-fi.com/MWP News. If you want to go on there, you can donate to us. We will greatly appreciate it. And the money goes back into doing cool things on the show. And we'll be back next week with the next batch of episodes. That will probably be on Thursday, though, when we're supposed to have the episode go up. But until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.